Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first official episode. We should say episode 2 because the first episode was Kirk and I chatting away about what to expect on the Upstate Original Podcast. So today is may we cheers to the first official podcast with my guest. I'm excited to say that we have our first sponsor as well. Deet Stadium Diner from Uptown Kingston, New York is our sponsor for this episode, and you'll be able to hear their commercial as we move along today through the podcast. Welcome, Andrea Park.
So pleased to be here, Nadine, hanging with my friend on a sunny afternoon.
I know. This is, to me, it was a no-brainer, and as I explained to Kirk when we did our little promo, Andrea is my mentor. I have two great parents that I consider my original mentors. My sisters guide me and everything, but when it came to the community stuff and having a job in the community and being a professional, you were my mentor. And I was a young mom, and it was balance, that balance of work and home life that you taught me. I asked Andrea to be the first guest of the podcast. It was unanimous within my family because we all chat about what we should be doing, but we want to have the show represent people that were born and raised here, people that decided to move here and plant roots, people that maybe are just visiting and passing through. We want to let people know what we're all about and make those connections and make people learn about each other and their backstories and a little bit about them and what brought them here and what you like and what you did and what you're doing now. So it was just a no-brainer because you encompass everything. So I'm going to let you get into that, but I want to let people know Andrea was the former executive director of the YMCA, and that's how I met her, YMCA of Ulster County. She gave me a shot and hired me, and I will forever be grateful for it. She is a mom. She is a grandma. She is retired now. She's an artist. She still speaks at different events. I think you're a Wonder Woman, and I think you're pretty. She's just going to let me sit here and talk.
I know. I'm having a great time on this podcast, and I'm learning a lot. Oh, I so remember interviewing you, Nadine.
Did I curse?
Well, not the first interview.
Okay.
You were more relaxed the second time round. And I know you said to me, I was very nervous, and why did you hire me? And I thought, why did I hire you? But
don't make me regret it.
Don't make me regret it. Energy, love, commitment, and there's sometimes you get a vibe from somebody, and people would say, "Oh, you hired somebody, Andrea?" And I said, "Yeah, marketing, fund development. So where did she go to school? What degree does she have?" I think she has a degree. She's a mom. She's got great energy, and it's just what we needed. Yeah. And I think that it's worked for both of us. And working with you was a blast.
It was so much fun, and and that was the biggest thing for me. I didn't have the educational background at the time. I was a young mom, but I had years of volunteering and fundraising all through my kids. And I knew a lot of people in the community being born and raised here. And I loved that piece. And that's exactly what you wanted me to do. And I know there were other people there with a lot of education and a lot of things, and it was a little intimidating because it was my first real job. They were boring, I wasn't, and it was good. And you and Carol LeMay. Carol, it was so great that we got to see her last year. And you know what? And this podcast and the Upstate Original Message is also about lifting others and lifting people and helping them, guiding them, encouraging them. And that's exactly what you and Carol did for me. It really, you did.
It was our pleasure. And the fact that we're still connected years later. And Nadine, you sell yourself short, though. You said, I didn't have this and I didn't have that, but I've learned some things from you. A lot of things from you. And I'm just going to tell you right now, just one thing I learned from Nadine, learned many things, was you keep memories alive of people. And when you talk about your mom or your dad, you talk about friends that you were at school with who are not here anymore, these people are still alive because you talk about them. And I learned that from you, because you think about us, when someone just passes away, we talk about them a lot. 10 years later, we may remember them. What's going to keep them alive is say their name.
And their stories,
say
right?
Their name, say their stories. And I learned that from you. And I think as the older I get, the more I talk about stories about my parents, the more I help my kids remember how great their grandparents were. They had 2 great sets of grandparents. But I learned that from you.
Well, thank you. And you know what? That means everything to me, because it's so important to me. Family's everything, really, but tradition, those stories, somebody's backstory, you're meeting somebody today, that's not who they always were, It's important for our children to know about their grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, and people do pass, and they're so important to you, and to us, it feels like they were here just yesterday, and hopefully that's what you want to put out to those that come after them, to remember them, because they really did great things for, not just for us, but for the people that they lived with, around, and for their communities. So,
it's storytelling.
Yeah,
it's storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's our own memories, and sometimes the things that we remember about somebody that we thought were kind of irritating or corny, our kids thought it was the funniest thing. So storytelling. And
it is. And some stories I don't tell, and I probably won't tell. No, I think I probably have. And, we want to keep it real.
Yes.
That is the thing, own your shit. I've always said that, own your shit. And my mother used to always go, so you have to own everything? And I'll go,
That's what a selected
she's probably looking down and saying, I wish you wouldn't tell that story. But you do have to own your stuff, because you know what? Somebody already knows it, the story. And I always say, you might hear that, but if you want to know the true story, ask me, just ask me. And this is a big part of this podcast, because history is important. Where we came from is important. And, there's a lot of people that come to our community now, moving here from all over the place. There's people that born and raised here. There's a bit of a disconnect. So I'm hoping that these stories and these podcasts will bring people together. You get an opportunity to meet great people and know their story. And if we can connect, like we said, one person to somebody that could help them, and you've helped so many along the way, that will make the difference to us and make this all worthwhile. Everything all worthwhile.
Well
I think so. So getting into your story, I want to know, I know how I met you, but your backstory. Because you are originally from British Columbia.
Yep. Well, we landed in New York a few years ago. It was an employment opportunity that was going to be a great opportunity for a family. So we landed in New York, and for the first year was in Hudson Valley. We lived in Rhinebeck, lovely place, and decided that Hudson Valley had a lot to offer. So people say to me, British Columbia, first of all, it's way out west, and I hear it's really beautiful. Describe British Columbia. So I say, southern British Columbia, beautiful landscapes, mountains, rivers, fishing, winter sports. There's wineries, fruit orchards there, and all of a sudden they say, are you talking about British Columbia?
It's like here.
Are you talking about Hudson Valley? So that was one of the hooks, was how beautiful it is here. And also in Kingston, in a 50-mile radius, you can find the most beautiful rides. You can go to art galleries. We go up Route 28 towards Roxbury and Andes. Last week we went over the Connecticut border to go to an art show. There is so much to do in the Hudson Valley, and that's what got me.
And we have those 4 true seasons. That's the thing. You had me crying a little bit there before, so I just want to.
I do, and I like all the seasons. People say, aren't you getting tired of winter? I'm not tired of winter. When I worked, I would be tired of winter, because when you run a not-for-profit, you don't get to say, oh, it looks kind of icy. I don't think I'll go to work today. You've got to be there. You've got to serve people.
You got to get up and shovel and go,
Let's
right?
get childcare going. Let's get those programs going. So now, when it's winter time, I don't need to go out. So I'm not tired of winter. I think it's beautiful. 4 seasons is very important.
I think we're fortunate that we have the 4 seasons. There's a lot of places in the country we can go that have sun 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. and that's fine. I think they also have hurricanes and tornadoes, although that's coming here a little bit too. So, yeah, exactly. But and I loved that story, that you weren't from here, but that you landed here and you loved it. And you got involved right away with the community?
I did. Absolutely. And I think that's the advantage of having children is you got to get going. And
have to be involved with them, right, Andrea?
Yep. So when we came to Kingston, Lauren, who's 39, and Drew, who's 35. So they were 5 and 1.5 when we came here. And Lauren was going to start at George Washington Elementary School.
GW.
Oh, yeah, GW. So you go to the PTA meetings. You get a library card. You get your kids into T-ball. You go to 4-H. And one of the things I was very conscious about, I didn't really have any money anyway, is I was only going to get involved in things where it didn't cost a lot. Because I didn't want to do something where, if you've got money to be a sponsor or join up, you're in. I just wanted to be in my neighborhood. So we lived off of Washington Avenue. My kids walked to school. They got involved in activities. And it was a little awkward at first because at my age, most people I met were other moms, but they had so many friends. I didn't have a friend. So I thought, well, get out there.
No better way to meet friends than I still have so many friends that I met through my children and their friends' parents. That's who they are.
And volunteering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Show up to PTA. Show up to places and then listen. Don't be the know-it-all who just came to town who said, well, back in my town we did. So you showed up, you volunteered, you got involved in 4-H. My kids grew potatoes and we had rabbits and we did lots of fun things. I worked for Cooperative Extension for a while, so immediately got involved in the community. And I was very lucky. People would say, you look like you have a lot of confidence. Do you want to try something new? And I went for it. Not everything I did was a hit, but
that's how you learn.
How you learn. And then again, I was very fortunate. People said, well, I remember someone saying to me, you have a pretty good voice. You can understand what you're saying. Would you like to do voiceovers for some commercials to do with Cooperative Extension? And once somebody gave me the signal to do that, you think you talk a lot? I can talk a lot too. So we've had some good conversations. But I embrace Kingston, and
you embrace that community. You said before what stuck out to me and what you were just saying was I didn't say, well, back in my town and what we did and whatever. You embraced this community, and you brought a little bit of your own spin to it and all, but you really embraced what was happening here. And I think that's important to people that are already here in this community. I mean, change is inevitable, and I think it's great for new ideas, but you really wanted to know what was happening here, and I think that's important.
And I'll tell you, one of the places I learned the most about what was happening in town was volunteering at the hot dog shack at the Little League field across from Edson. I'd go in there quietly.
Colonial Little League. Was it JC Little League at the time?
I think it was Colonial.
Colonial at the time, okay.
And I would just listen to what was going on, and I go, got an idea there, met somebody there, quietly go in, take the grunt job that nobody else wants. I'll fill up all the I'll fill up all the mustard containers.
And hear everything.
Okay. So it was fun. And like you did it for your kids, and you wanted them to make friends, and that's how I made friends.
And it's not even, you don't have to have children, right, to volunteer. You don't have to have children to get involved in your community, because there are enough organizations and enough things out there that you're able to do that. When did you take the job with the Y?
I worked at the Y. The first time I got involved there was 1996-97, and I was a volunteer. I was on the board development committee, and I also ran, this will loop around to something later, I was the volunteer gallery coordinator for the Emily Hoystrad Gallery at the YWCA. And I read about Emily. She was one of the founding members of the YWCA. She grew up on West Chester Street, which is just where I live, off one of the side streets up there, and she was a driving force as a businesswoman and an artist, and they had a gallery there, but it wasn't being used really so much as a gallery, so I volunteered to be a gallery coordinator. I organized shows. I would be there Friday night. Saturday night was opening night, and that was my first volunteer job. And then I got a job doing had a really fancy title, director of special projects, which meant basically Andrea will do it. Ask Andrea.
I had that job.
You had that job too. And the great thing about it, it was
Jim.
Yeah, that's right.
Jim will do it.
Oh, there's a story. But that's how it happened. And so,
It is.
And you say, oh, I can do that. Sure, I'll pick that up. I'll go out and do that. And it just worked. And then I met all these great people, and I realized the mission was about advocacy and education and services for women, children, and families. And I thought, well, what's more important than that? Well, that's what we've got to do.
And I just want to say that group of women, that worked there, and you always took out a moment for men, which was pretty awesome of you, but they were so committed, not just to each other, but to that mission of women, children, and their families, lifting each other up, encouraging each other. Literally, if somebody called and needed something at their house and needed a place to stay, to be shuttered off in the middle of the night to a safe spot against domestic violence. I mean, all of those things, you guys were like this incredibly amazing team. And a lot of the women that I'm talking about were part of the Cellar Club.
Yes, the Cellar Club.
Which was in the 60s at the YMCA, right? It was a dance club for teenagers.
Hangout place. Oh, there were some wild stories about how well behaved they were when they were in the building in the Cellar Club. But there were certain things hiding in the bushes across the street. Yeah.
That still happens here now.
The good old days, they'll never die.
But it meant so much to them that they stayed involved with the Y and became board members and did so many grassroots things for their community. Yeah. It was just an incredible time, for everyone. And I watching you, through those years and learning the importance of lifting other women and giving kudos when kudos was needed and encouraging it when somebody was feeling low and helping children. And when somebody needed diapers, I remember you saying, well, she needs them. Everybody else is going to need them. We need, at least 20 cases. We'd end up with 100, right? Cases, whatever.
Diaper drive.
You just really, really did that. And you did it for so long and worked with so many other organizations.
And that was fun, and that was the fun part of building the community, because there were certain things we were really good at. And one of the people that I got to know, who's still there, is Heidi from the YM. And there's nothing like being with the YW to be confused with.
Heidi's a powerhouse. Yeah. Oh yeah. I answered the phone sometimes. YMCA. No. It's YW, because I would go to the YMCA, and it was just
But if we didn't do it, you always referred them to somebody in the community. It wasn't, oh, sorry, we don't do that. Thanks for calling. It was a resource center. That was what it was about. And we talk about a lot of serious things, but we really laughed at each other too. Especially
Always.
when we take ourselves a little too seriously sometimes, and then you just have to burst out with laughter. But it was a resource for other agencies that we didn't do that program, but get you to the program.
You always directed people where they needed to go. You said that you learned that from me. What I learned from you. Still, I mess up every now and then, but I remember you taking me into your office after this. There was a meeting, and there was some craziness going on, and other organizations and things like that, whatever. And you said, Nadine, you are so impassioned about this, and you're really doing great, and you're taking the lead on this, and I'm so happy, but you have to, your face... You have to learn to keep a poker face and not look at somebody like, what? She said. So I did learn now to just look at somebody, even though they're making no sense at all or they're being rude to another person. I had to learn to just go, and I'm getting good at it.
Good. And you know what? Sometimes when somebody's saying something that just doesn't seem right, I mean, there's times you do need to interrupt. You just say, that's not okay. That language is not okay. That attitude is not okay. But sometimes when people are just yammering on, they'll dig their own little hole. Just give them another 2 or 3 sentences.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And you at that time, the YW was so entrenched in the school district, which was pretty awesome because, and COVID and, things have happened, and I know things changed. The APS program, Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Services,
I love that one.
Was just an amazing program that we had. And the school district and our youth really needed that. And I remember, everyone, made the most of that program. Amy Capus was in charge. It was an amazing time to really be real with kids and talk to the kids. And it was really very important. And I remember how when it ended, the funding was pulled, government funding, pulled, and how everybody, really rallied to keep it and save it, and the powers that be way up just didn't allow that, but you all fought for it.
And you mentioned a really important program, and the whole topic of adolescent pregnancy prevention was a hot topic. I mean, a lot of people got nervous when you talked about that, and I would talk to people who thought, oh my gosh, what's she going to say, what words is she going to use, what's the language? And I would try to tell people, we have to find a common ground about this. And I would get together with people and I would say, look, I know we don't agree on everything, perhaps the approach, but here's two things that you will hear from the YWCA. One, it'll be medically correct and age appropriate. And I think that we can all agree that we don't want anybody to have a baby in high school and leave high school without their degree and struggle. So if we take that as our premise for all our education, and people would say, Andrea, I can agree with that. So we did some great stuff in
We
schools.
did some great stuff. And, we always made it, obviously, at the time, was very important to for women to be able to decide for themselves, what they wanted to do with their situation and their reproductive rights.
Yep.
And they really were able to get educated and make well-informed decisions that were right for them, and everybody supported that. So it's a tough time for the future right now for young women and older women and women in general. But do know that there are women in place, all over that will help you. And, and the Y, I know today, are big advocates for women and girls as well.
Yeah, it's been a really tough time. But as somebody said the other day, the Supreme Court decision rallied people that maybe weren't speaking out before. People have done this divide. Oh, the Democrats think this, the Republicans think this. Well, there's a lot of Republicans who don't like the Roe v. Wade being yanked either.
Absolutely.
So in a way, it's a little bit warped, but we've had more discussions about your right about your body, and it also relates to education. Everybody deserves the
and
right
the importance of it.
To have decisions, personal decisions. And then if you make a mistake, well, let's help you get through it.
Now let's make it right. Here's what happened. Here's where we are. Let's see how we can help you move forward, because we want everybody to reach their most potential, right? Everybody has so much potential, and we don't want that to, never has to stop because you become a parent.
And you bring it, we all have so much potential, and I think sometimes we think we're so different than everybody. Oh, I'm so unique. I'm the only person that moved from British Columbia I'm the only person that did this. I'm the only person that looks like this. I'm the only person that thinks like this. I'm the only person that had crazy parents. I'm the only person who's had a sibling that passed away. We have more in common than we do have differences.
Absolutely.
And I think that, and I'm going to quote Kurt here, because when I saw the promo, he said, let's sit down and talk about it. Talk it through. And when people sit down and they already say, okay, you can talk for 5 minutes, but I already know what I'm thinking, they're not practicing good listening skills. Yeah. It's talking about it. And I'm often surprised when I stop talking what I learn. And that's just listen.
Because if you don't listen, and like we said, I'm almost 6, I'm 57, Kirk is 20, we learn so much from each other that, and that's what this show, we're learning something from every single generation. There's a lot of people that say, oh, they're too young, or people say they're old, and that is something that you were really, really good at. The isms. You always put it out there, racism, ageism, sexism. I mean, you were like, we must talk about the isms, all these isms. And I thought, because I was handed the book, it's a rebrand, and it's eliminating racism, empowering women. But you were adamant. There's a lot of isms I want to, I want to address, because they all should be. We all suffer from something. You always talk about people having this privilege that they don't even know, right? It was, and I'm talking 20 years ago. I mean, this is, more than that, maybe.
Did I have books in my house? Yes. Did I go to the dentist? Yes. That's a
privilege that some people don't get, but you came pretty close to finding anybody who ever needed any of that exactly what they needed. So you were great at that. So you ended up going into, we're outside, so I'm hearing some things. So you retired.
I did.
Which I didn't think you ever would, but but you did. And I know that they dragged you back a few times.
Well, you always think that you're done, and then someone calls and says, do you remember this, or how does this work, or I've got to apply for this grant, or I've got to phone City Hall, and who should I call, and what should I do? So it's always been great to help the next group and really encourage them to sort of say, you're doing it your way, but if you want to just make it a little easier on yourself, ask for this person. And sometimes I say, mention my name. Sometimes I say, don't mention my name. I don't want to do it. So you went, and we definitely want to talk about you're retiring. Yep.
You're an artist, which you've always been, and that kind of took a turn to that. Yep. So I want to read a brief commercial by our sponsor, who is, do you go to the Deet Stadium Diner?
Oh my gosh. The Deet Stadium Diner was one of the first places to say, I know COVID's hitting, but come inside. Come inside. We've got the biggest heaters. We've got the great menus. I had a few breakfasts out there.
And it's true, but it's true. So I'm going to give my first commercial for our sponsor, the Deet Stadium Diner. I just love Eleni. She's awesome. Cheers to them, by the way. We're excited to say that they are sponsoring this episode. They are in Uptown, Kingston, New York. They offer daily specials for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can get anything from banana split waffles to salads, wraps, and paninis to comfort foods and sautés. They also offer vegan and gluten-free options, along with standard beverages. They also offer specialty mimosas, sangria, wine, and beer. I usually do that often when I go there. And they do have a new frappe shake. Most of their desserts are homemade, from cheesecakes to fruit pies to puddings and more. Stadium Diner is also a huge supporter of local businesses, such as offerings from homemade cookies, cupcakes, local maple syrup, and their staff even wear our Upstate original shirts, which is pretty awesome. The diner is 3 generations strong, with Eleni Lauzu and her husband, Sanaki, taking over in 2007 with their partner, Andy. You can dine inside, enjoy their beautiful outdoor seating area, or order takeout to go. Please stop in and support the Deet Stadium Diner at 127 North Front Street, Kingston, New York, 845-331-5321, where everyone is treated like family. They are just absolutely amazing. So yeah, Deet Stadium Diner, one of my absolute faves and one of my go-to, and they really do treat you like family, which is, definitely, pretty awesome. So we talked a little bit before I went to the commercial. We talked a little bit about you're retiring. I mean, what was that? Retired, I should say now. What was that like for you? Because I know you had to know, it was tough to leave what you did for more than 20 years, right?
Yes. You plan. I told my board that I gave them 2 years notice, just a lot of notice. I don't know if that was for them or that was for me, so I could talk myself into it. It was sad and it was exciting. It was sad because I had a wonderful job. I had the blessing of a wonderful job where I could be immersed in my community, where I felt I could do good things, I could meet wonderful people, and
you did all that.
Well, I think I did that, and the most important thing is I did it with a wonderful team. So being able to lead a team of people, to feel that the collective pride in the work we did was very important to me, but it was time, and I made myself a commitment that I would retire when I was 65. So 3 years ago, I did it. I went through with it. One of the, I guess, if people saying, how do you plan for retirement? I think it's talking about it in advance, telling people you mean it, and plan before you retire what you think you want to do, so you just don't wake up on that first day and wonder who you are. I did wonder who I was. And to be perfectly honest, when you're the
who am I without the job? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because an executive director, that's who I was. As one of our dear friends, Dan Ruback, used to joke, hi Andrea, this is Andrea. She used to be somebody. And then oh, who am I now?
He used to say, she's not going anywhere. She's not going anywhere. She's not going anywhere. And I'd say, I think she's.
Who am I? And for so many years, and by then your kids are
You
grown
get to be you.
You get to be me.
You
And who is
without
me?
the title. Yeah, yeah.
So I did a little planning before I retired, and one of those things that I did was I always did some kind of artwork, but it was just a little bit, maybe a Saturday class or a doodle, or I took a lot of photographs, and I said I need to plant the seed to launch this. So before I retired, I reached out, thought about where I was going to take classes, what I wanted to do. So I planned to take something that was a hobby and make it a little bit more serious. And I retired in January, so the weather was kind of crummy. And I'll tell you, I woke up many mornings at the same time, dressed and ready to go. It's 7:45, and where is everybody? Where's my problem to solve? What's the problem? Who needs to help? My help in some room. Do I need to help out in the baby room? There's no baby room. Do I need to go to a meeting? There's no meeting for you. But it worked out all right. And I just launched. I just gravitated to something that I talked about a lot. I'm going to paint. I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to get to work. So it was great. We retired. We built a garage. Maggie and I had this idea that our property needed a garage. So the top of the garage is my studio space. It's my hangout. It's my place. And that's what I've been doing. I've been painting.
It's your space. It's
my
your space. And your artwork, I just want to say, she is an artist. She is an amazing artist. You know, it's Andrea M. Park, Landscapes and Escapes, which is absolutely amazing. You know, I just want you to know we're going to be adding some of your photos, or photos of your artwork to the podcast, so people will get to see it. I wish that everybody should follow her on Instagram. It's AM Park and 99 at gmail.com, and I'm sorry, that's not your Instagram, that's your email. And Instagram, she is Park_Andy, Andy, right? Okay. So and we'll post that as well on your photos. I am enthralled. I always would go up to your office and there would be something that you had worked on. I'm sure we're very early in the morning before work or after work, because I never saw you working on your artwork there, but it was displayed some piece that you were working on. And I was actually gifted a piece of your artwork when Allie went away into law enforcement, and was, down in DC, and you knew the worry and the stress, and you gave me a beautiful angel painting that you have a series of.
I have 2 or 3 paintings that was done in response to a poem about, we can't fix everything in the world, but we can, the essence of it, what we can do, one small act of kindness. And one of my favorite places to walk where I live is Montrepose Cemetery. And there is a beautiful angel in there that my granddaughter calls Claire. And so Claire was the inspiration for a painting about our world and about flowers and about being gentle and the richness of life and color and the beauty
that we don't often enough think about, right? Or focus on. And we don't, and far be it, for me, I'm always on the go, whatever, but I do now take that time. I know how important it is to stop and smell the roses, because we don't do it enough.
Practice gratitude.
And I think that's where the anger sometimes comes from people, or the hustle and bustle, or the just not wanting to listen, right? From that.
And painting lets you do that. I like to paint outdoors, or I take photographs and sketch and finish work in the studio. But it is a gift. And one of my hashtags is get outside and play, get outside and draw, get outside and paint, and practice gratitude. And it really comes back to the beauty of the area here. I've done a series of paintings that was in a show last summer, and every painting was either from Sullivan, Dutchess, Columbia, or Ulster County. And I'll be able to paint here forever because there's so much beautiful material.
There's so many beautiful spots to go. You just mentioned you were at the Big Deep.
Big Deep.
And I, as a kid, was at the Big Deep, you know what I mean? And you painted, there, took a class there, right?
I did Woodstock School of Art, which is an amazing art school, another gift in this community, about 8 or 10 miles from Kingston. Woodstock School of Art has a wonderful array of talented painters. Think of something you want to draw, figure drawing. Do you want to do printmaking? Do you want to do plein air painting, which is my love? They have courses, they have weekend courses, they have 4-week-long courses, they have day-long courses. So I've taken a couple of 2 or 3 classes there. Rich environment, wonderful people, very inclusive. That's one thing about the artist community here. I found people are very willing to share techniques and locations and post things. Hey, has anybody been painting at Falling Waters in Saugerties? It's gorgeous right now. Has anybody been over to Olana?
And social media has become so great for that, right? To introduce you to art pages, to get together for artists. We're still doing the first Saturday, art walks, of all the different places throughout the city of Kingston, that you can go. I think the first time that I ever attended one, the Emily Hoystrack Gallery, we displayed some art in there, right? At one time. So, it's just, there's so much to embrace. I want to ask you, what would you, because like you said, you came here, you embraced, you got involved, you did whatever. For somebody new coming here, whether they're a young family, they're on their own, young couple, whatever it is, what would you recommend that they do? They're coming from somewhere else and they're new to Kingston. Maybe they want to open a business or they want to do a hobby or they kind of want to do whatever, but what would you recommend is so important that maybe you're not seeing today happen?
Great question. I think when you're new to the area, you do feel like, how am I going to fit in? But remember, nobody knows anything about you. It's called a fresh start. So I think I would say to somebody, is there a passion that you have not been able to explore because of where you lived or other things you needed to take care of? Maybe you've always been interested in theater. So we have local theater companies. Maybe you don't want to be on stage, but you know something about lighting. You know something about costumes. You'd like to paint a background. Go somewhere and volunteer in a very quiet way. Get a library card, go to some art galleries, find a passion and go and say, I'm here to learn. I mean, that's really what we're here for.
Talk to other people, right? With your interests. Yeah. Talk to other people, because I think so often, and I always think of this phone call I took at work when I, during the pandemic, was working for the alleys for Pestmaster.
Yes.
And I remember a gentleman calling, he said he had something dead on his roof and, he was elderly and he couldn't climb. What would we charge? And I said, well, he told me he lived uptown on Green Street or Fair Street. And I said, well, do you have a neighbor, a younger neighbor? And he says, well, yeah, there's younger people, in the building. And I said, maybe one of them would be, well, I don't talk to them. I remember thinking, but I said to him, well, you should. And far be it from me, my boss ever heard me be like, what is she, but he did. He ended up, then he called me the next day. He said, I guess the fella next door, and he was in his early 80s, this gentleman, I guess the young fella next door, and he went up and he got that squirrel. It was a dead squirrel, But, the talking and the communicating so important.
Ask a recommendation from somebody. Ask somebody, are you interested in sports? Is there a league that you could get into? Or do you just like being outside on your own? Mountain biking. People mountain bike. They go fishing.
Pickleball.
Oh, pickleball.
Pickleball is huge right now.
That seems to be the great neutralizer, because there's pickleball courts everywhere.
Yeah, that seems to be the big thing now. But there's soccer, there's adult soccer, there's youth soccer, there is flag football, there's so many things. There's volleyball down at the beach. There's, there's so many different things that we offer here in our community. Not just Kingston. Yes, Kingston has all of that, but throughout Ulster County, you can kayaking, the river,
Absolutely.
The creek,
There's bike rides. There's a gentle bike ride that's done. There is the other thing that's really cool that's happening in Kingston is, you mentioned the art walks, but there's bike rides in Kingston. There's very reasonable places to join and take swim lessons.
But it's all about communication, right, Andrea?
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, you were often the beacon, for that. You really, attracted people to say, I can, and I think I learned a lot of that too from you. Let me, we can't help you, but this person can help you, or this organization, or this. So I think until you put yourself out there, right? You can't really, you put yourself out there how many times, not just through work, but, as a person, that, hey, here's what I'm saying and doing. Not everybody might agree with me, but you know what? I know that I'm going to meet the end goal.
Yeah, willing to take a chance. And that does take some self-confidence. But just believe in yourself. And you say this all the time, know your worth.
Yeah.
We all have some kind of skill. We might not even know it. Sometimes they're very technical skills. Some people have the skill of great eye contact and wanting to share an experience. Some people are great storytellers. Some people want an opportunity to be kind. Some people want to donate. Call a school and say, do you do something around the holidays? Kingston High School does shopping for kids around holidays, and they need people to donate so people can earn school bucks and use the bucks to buy
There's
things.
always something that you offer that somebody else needs, right? It's just a matter of finding that. And I think we live in such a great place, for that. You know what I mean? I do. I think that we live in such a great place for that. That's so important, And that is what we... See how comfortable we were getting?
Yeah, I know. Did somebody chop off my glass? Something would happen, maybe.
But we were, and you're talking about it. Go easy on us with this podcast. This is new for us, and this is really just a conversation, because if one person says to me, I saw your video, with Andrea, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go volunteer. I'm going to, whatever. We would have done our great job. You know what I mean? And I want people to know other people in our community. I want people to, this, my thought process and our message and everything is really very similar to the way that you ran the show, the way that you led, everyone. And I think that everyone was so on board with that. And I think that it's frustrating for me because it isn't always that way anymore.
Yeah, I think people change and
evolve,
or there's different things going on, but that always means you can be true to yourself. You always have the opportunity to set an example of gratitude. You think of the simple things. If you can turn and look at somebody and say, "Hi, can I help you?" That is a gift, because there's a lot of people who go, "Huh? What do you want? Huh? I don't understand you."
Oh, here she comes. I'm out.
Here's a customer.
Yeah, I'm going to hide. We joked about that the other night. Somebody knocking at your door years ago. You're like, come on in. We got coffee, cake. We got whatever. Now people are hiding. Don't answer the door. Whatever. But it does come down to communication and putting yourself out there a little bit. And that's okay, because even if you're not comfortable with it or confident, ask someone to help you. Things got a little difficult through COVID and issues, but I learned I'm very comfortable being in my house a lot, and just being at home. I go places when I have to go places and obviously for fun or whatever, but I'm totally fine just being with me.
But when you go out and you have a smile on your face, I know it all sounds like, peace, love, Woodstock, all that kind of stuff, but it's a way of carrying yourself through, and also a way of saying, I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything. And it goes back to what we were talking about, show up, be the quiet person in the room, listen and learn, and then somebody will say to you, hey, do you want to join us? And you will be surprised, and that's what's happened with the art community. Do you want to come and paint with me? Do you want to hang some work here? It's been a sort of re-entry, I guess, into my community with a different slant.
Yes. So let me ask you, are you showing anytime soon? Are you?
Well, I did have a really lovely show, according to me, a year ago.
You did? I did. Gallery.
It was lovely. I did a show with a friend of mine, Terry, and she's a photographer, and so her was photography in the Hudson Valley, and mine was painting in the Hudson Valley with a theme of, people say, what do you paint? And I say, well, I paint what I see, which is light and color. And to see that, I'm usually outside. So that's the landscape piece. So I had a show. I've also, so that was a show of a big show for me anyway. But I've also had work in other galleries that has sold. I've sold work because people have seen something on an Instagram site.
So I was going to say, yes. Can people on your Instagram, and I want to say this again, on Instagram, this work is amazing, and it's all different sizes, watercolors, right? Watercolors.
No, oil paintings, and a new thing I'm starting now called gouache, which is a water-soluble piece. So because I'm getting ready to learn to do something that's, oils are my wonderful, my first choice.
That's your first
But they take a long time to dry. They're not that portable. You can't just put them, you know, you gotta let them air dry.
Right.
They take months. But I'm learning to paint gouache, which is water soluble and it dries very quickly. But yes, I post my work on Instagram,
and just so you know, it is Park, PARK _ Andy, ANDY _. So it's at Park _ Andy _ So we're going to post all that too. You'll get to see all that. But you'll be able to, somebody can reach out to you. They can come look at it. They can make a purchase still. They can do all those things.
And most galleries, I had some work at the Emerge Gallery in Saugerties, and this will be the third year I'll have a piece in Ask Gallery's Poetic License show in August. My first
This month?
Yes, starting in August. There's a wonderful show. I've got to give a shout out.
August 1st.
Yes.
It's August 1st.
There's a wonderful show of Nancy Campbell and John Campbell's work.
From Saugerties?
Yes. Okay, she has a big show coming up, she and her son, at the Ask Gallery. But I've had a few pieces sold that were related to a poem. And one of the studies for the poem is the painting that you have. And then last year I had another painting sold for another poem, and I'm putting in another poem, this painting for a poem in August. So that's coming up. But I'm always working. I'm very excited. This has nothing to do with the Hudson Valley, but I'm going to Sicily in September.
I'm so excited for you guys. I'm so excited. You're going to be painting everywhere.
And
Allie just came back. She loved it. She said it was amazing.
I've never been to Sicily, so I'm
You're
going to go
love
there.
It, she said you're going to love it.
And I'm going to come back to the beautiful Hudson Valley and finish paintings in the studio. You know, it's a good life. There's difficult days, but there's much to be grateful for. Friendships and opportunities, and giving other people opportunities. You don't know what someone's going to become, but you can say, I think I gave a little bit to help them to become the best person that they can be. And isn't that what we want for everybody?
It is what we want. You know, and I often say there's something, and my mother used to say this all the time, even at the worst of times, there's always a blessing to be seen. Mm-hmm. You might have to look for it a little bit harder, but it really is always there. And that's not just BS. That is really the truth, you know? And if that is something, we all have our funks. We try to keep it real, you know? We all have our funks. We all go through our stuff. We all, you know, whatever. And we evolve. We may take 10 steps back, we evolve a little more, we change, but that's the beauty of life, right? You know, is that we get to have all these changes, you know? But you're 100% right, you know, and if you're grateful for where you've been, for, you know, where you think you're going to go, and these opportunities, that is a lot what it's about, is gratitude.
And somebody gave us an opportunity. And so why wouldn't we do that for somebody else?
I will always do that. I mean, I will. That's like my life's mission, because I have been lifted. I say that all the time. I think it's really important. It's like that, you know, pay it forward. It's like that somebody buying you coffee, you know, at the Starbucks, and then, you know, you buy the person behind you, and you have to do that, because otherwise it won't always matter sometimes. It makes it matter, knowing that you did something really good for somebody and put a smile on their face that day, or you never know what somebody's going through, right? You just don't know. If you can make anybody smile, I think it makes you smile inside, you know? And
we say we're doing it for somebody else. We're doing it for ourselves too, because this is how we want to live our life. This is how this is how I want to live my life.
How you want to live your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with joy, with gratitude.
Yeah. Well, I think you did. I think that you did that. I'm going to do a really quick commercial for Kirk Cannon. Kirk is my tech guy. We're going to put this information up there too, and I have a nice picture of him and I. You need professional pictures, but don't know who to contact? Kirk Cannon's got your back. From portraits to events, weddings, and also automotive photography. His automotive photography is just amazing, whether it's vintage cars, new cars, whatever, you're in a car club, he is definitely your man. Follow him on Instagram at kirk.cannon, and or contact him at 845-663-6618 to book a shoot today. Kirk Cannon is your guy, let me just tell you that. I just want to, you know, before we end, this is kind of an ode to you as well, because I didn't, you know, I loved doing one of my favorite things about being at the YWCA was the tribute to women, and the way that you got to reflect on all the amazing things that somebody did throughout their lifetime or did to make a difference in their community. So to me, this is my opportunity to tell Andrea her life is a a life that was very well lived. Not just did she, self-care and taught others about that and everything. She really made a difference to everybody, but she was always very conscious of herself, that if she wasn't okay, none of us would have been okay. And I just want everybody to know that it's a life well lived. It's a life that gave to others. It is full of gratitude, and she's 100% right. I think that we do all need to be grateful. So I'm grateful that you're in my life, and I know you have a lot of life to live. Oh, yes. For sure. That's our plan. So yeah. So I'm definitely we're gonna chit chat again. Okay. And did I this is your time, and did I forget anything?
No,
we don't want to tell any secrets.
No, but I was just thinking about life, and when your life flashes before you, and all the good moments and the crazy moments, and we'll both beginning to see when our life flashes before that's like, oh my gosh, I said that.
Oh wow, did I?
But I have to tell you, I just thought of something for your tech guy, for Kurt.
Oh yeah.
Because I photograph my artwork, and it's not always very good, and I crop it or I have it at the wrong angle. I bet you could photograph some artwork for me so my Instagram gets
So you know what? This is the purpose of this, of what we're doing, the connections. And I don't, even on my radio show, I always end up with a connection. So Andrea Park and Kurt Cannon are going to connect. He'll come over. He'll check out what you have. He'll do some video.
To the gallery.
We absolutely will. I want to see it. We want a photo, and maybe we'll do a little live video for Facebook, because this, I want to remind people, this is YouTube. People have to, to see any more of our episodes, go to YouTube. It is free. Just register at Upstate Original Podcasts, and you'll get to see everything. And that's the way to look. But we'll do a little live video when we come to your gallery. Oh, I think it'll be
because
great.
then I also will be thanking you, acknowledging you, photo by.
Yeah, and he is building his resume. He's got so much. I just want him to stay. I don't know, was it your cousin that I spoke with, or your aunt, somebody? And I said, she said, thank you for taking him under your wing. And I said, listen, I just hope he hangs out a while, because he is very talented. He's very personable, and he really does have a great eye. So now you're blushing, and he's, we probably embarrassed him, but it's the truth. Okay. It's the truth. And you got to keep lifting people. He lifted me to do this.
I can tell you at least 6 occasions when somebody has said to me in the last few months, I need my artwork photographed for a catalog. Does anybody know anybody? I don't know anybody. Well, now
you do. Now you know Kirk, and Kirk is pretty awesome. Yeah. So we're going to sign off. We're going to say goodbye. So come over here, Kirk. You got to say goodbye with us too. Kirk is my guy behind the lens and videoing us. There he is. I want to thank Andrea so much for being here. She was amazing. So tune in. This will launch Saturday. They'll already know it when they see it. But tune in for the next show that we have for our next episode. I'm not going to give it away to who our guest is, but I promise you another great podcast. Thanks.
Thank you.